Have you ever wondered why some failures seem impossible to forget? A project doesn't work out, a business fails, an exam goes badly, a goal you've spent months, or even years, working towards suddenly falls apart, and the pain feels much deeper than the result itself. Because you're not just disappointed, you're questioning yourself, your abilities, your future, your sense of who you are. Psychology suggests that this happens for a reason. Sometimes failure doesn't just affect what we were trying to achieve. It affects the identity we built around achieving it. Today, we're exploring why failed success attempts hurt your identity, and why some setbacks feel personal even when they shouldn't. 1. We often tie our identity to our goals. Most people don't simply pursue goals. They build part of their identity around them. A student begins to see themselves as a future top performer. An entrepreneur sees themselves as a future business owner. A creator sees themselves as someone who will eventually succeed. Over time, the goal becomes more than something they want. It becomes part of how they see themselves. So when the goal falls apart, the loss feels larger than the event itself, because it feels as though a piece of their identity has been shaken. 2. The mind interprets failure as a reflection of self-worth. One of the biggest psychological mistakes people make is confusing performance with value. A failed attempt becomes, maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I'm not capable enough. Maybe I don't have what it takes. Notice what happened. The focus shifts away from the event and moves toward the person. Instead of seeing, the strategy failed, they begin thinking, I failed. And that distinction changes everything. Because when self-worth becomes attached to outcomes, every setback feels personal. 3. They lose the story they were telling themselves. Long before success happens, people often build a story in their mind about where their life is going. They imagine who they'll become, what they'll achieve, how their efforts will eventually pay off. That story gives meaning to difficult days. It gives purpose to sacrifice. It makes setbacks feel temporary. But when a major attempt fails, that story can suddenly break apart. And without it, many people feel lost. Not because they don't know what happened, but because they no longer know what comes next. 4. Failure creates a gap between expectation and reality. The stronger the expectation, the more painful the disappointment. When people invest heavily in a goal, they naturally begin expecting a certain outcome. And when reality moves in a different direction, the gap can feel emotionally overwhelming. Questions begin appearing. What now? Who am I without this goal? Was all that effort wasted? These questions aren't really about failure. They're about identity. Because the person is trying to understand how their self-image fits into a reality they never expected. 5. Identity becomes stronger when it's built on growth, not outcomes. People who recover from failure successfully tend to make an important shift. Instead of defining themselves by results, they define themselves by qualities, their effort, their resilience, their willingness to learn, their ability to adapt. This creates a more stable identity. Because outcomes change, circumstances change, success and failure come and go, but personal growth continues. And when identity is built on growth rather than achievement, setbacks lose much of their power to damage self-worth. Failed success attempts hurt because they often affect more than goals. They affect identity, the way we see ourselves, the future we imagined, and the story we've been telling ourselves about who we're becoming. But failure is not a final description of a person. It's a moment, an event, a piece of information. Because the outcome of one attempt can never fully define the value of the person behind it. And sometimes, the strongest identities are built not through uninterrupted success, but through learning how to rebuild after disappointment.